The stars stretched endlessly around the small cargo ship as it moved through the empty space. Captain Marcus sat in the pilot's chair, leaning back, his eyes half closed. It had been a long week of trading runs between lonely outposts, and his fuel reserves were running low. He was thinking about returning to his home station when the ship's sensors beeped. A faint object had appeared on the radar, drifting slowly among the debris of what looked like a destroyed convoy. Marcus frowned. The object was small, maybe the size of a large storage crate. He adjusted his ship's course and moved closer. Through the forward window, he saw it. An escape pod. Its metal surface scorched and covered in scratches. The pod was spinning gently in the dark. Marcus knew that most pods like this contained nothing but cold bodies. Still, something in his gut told him to check. He locked the pod into the ship's docking bay and walked down the narrow corridor. The docking lights flickered as the pod door hissed open. At first, he saw nothing but shadows inside. Then, his breath caught. A small figure was curled up in the corner, motionless. Silver skin glistened under the dim light, and long strands of pale hair hung over her face. She was wearing a torn, sleeveless garment made of strange fabric. For a moment, Marcus thought she might already be gone. He reached forward and gently touched her shoulder. Her body twitched, and her head lifted weakly. Two glowing blue eyes opened, bright and otherworldly. They locked onto his, full of fear. She tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Her hand trembled as she reached toward him, her fingers wrapping around his wrist, in a voice barely louder than a whisper. She said one word, "Hide," then her eyes rolled back, and she fell into unconsciousness. Marcus stood there for a moment, frozen. Her warning had sent a shiver down his spine. Who was she hiding from? And why was she drifting alone in deep space? He knew he couldn't leave her here. Without wasting more time, he lifted her gently into his arms, surprised by how light she was. He carried her to the medical station inside his ship. The medical scanner beeped softly as it scanned her. Marcus saw readings that didn't match human biology, extra organs, unusual blood composition. She was clearly not from any of the common alien races he knew. He gave her some oxygen and started cleaning the wounds on her arms. Her breathing steadied, but her expression remained tense even in sleep, as if she was still running from something in her dreams. Marcus sat in the chair beside her bed. He had seen many strange things in his years as a cargo pilot, but there was something different about this girl. She didn't look like a soldier or a criminal. She looked lost. He remembered the fear in her voice when she said, "Hide." The tone wasn't just fear, it was urgency. Someone out there wanted her found, and they probably wouldn't stop until they had her. He decided to keep the ship moving. As he returned to the cockpit, the sensors flashed again. 3 small blips appeared on the radar. Far away but approaching fast, they were moving in a search pattern, scanning each sector of space. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He had a feeling they were looking for the very person now lying in his medbay. He shut off the main lights and diverted power to stealth mode. The ship floated silently among the scattered wreckage, blending with the debris. Minutes felt like hours as the unknown ships passed nearby. Marcus held his breath. Finally, the radar showed them moving away, but he knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. He glanced back toward the med bay. The girl was still unconscious, but her hand twitched slightly. In that moment, Marcus made a quiet decision. Whoever she was, he would keep her safe. He didn't know why, but something deep inside told him it was the right thing to do. As the cargo ship drifted through the darkness, the stars seemed a little less cold. Asterisk. The hum of the engines was the only sound in the ship. Marcus sat in the cockpit, one hand on the controls, the other tapping the console in thought. The girl had been unconscious for nearly an hour, and the approaching ships were still on his mind. He needed answers, and soon, when he returned to the med bay, she was awake. Her blue eyes followed him cautiously, scanning every detail of the room. Marcus moved slowly, setting a tray beside her bed with a cup of water and a nutrient bar. She didn't take them immediately. Instead, she asked in broken galactic common. Where? M1? You're safe, Marcus said, keeping his voice calm. The word made her flinch, as if it was a promise she had heard too many times before. Her gaze dropped to the floor. Marcus noticed her hands trembling. Not from weakness, but from tension. I found you in an escape pod. He continued, floating near a wreck. Her lips pressed into a thin line. After a pause, she whispered, They were hunting me. Marcus didn't push for details. He knew trust couldn't be forced. Instead, he sat in the chair, beside her bed, leaning back as if he had all the time in the world. After a long silence, she reached for the water and sipped slowly. My name. Alira, she said quietly. Marcus nodded. Marcus. Her eyes studied his face, as if searching for something. A sign of deception. Perhaps whatever she saw seemed to ease her expression slightly. He noticed the faint scars along her arms. Thin and deliberate. Not the kind made by accidents, but by restraints. Marcus's jaw tightened. He had seen those marks before, on refugees who escaped the black market labs. He understood now why she didn't believe in the word safe. The ship's console beeped suddenly, and Marcus's attention snapped to the small comm screen. A broadcast was playing on an open frequency, a bounty notice. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Alira's face, younger and uninjured, stared back from the display. Her name wasn't listed. Only the words, stolen asset, in large red letters. A reward was promised for her return, alive. Marcus shut off the screen before she could see it. He didn't want to see her reaction. But Alira was already watching him carefully. You saw it. More a statement than a question. Marcus met her gaze. Doesn't matter. She tilted her head, confused. You don't want the reward? Marcus smirked faintly. I'm not in the business of selling people. Her eyes softened, just slightly, and for the first time, her shoulders relaxed in the distance. A faint vibration rattled the ship's hull. Marcus checked the radar. The hunters were sweeping the nearby sectors again. They were getting closer. He turned to Alira. We need to move. She hesitated, then gave a small nod. For now. She was willing to trust him, but Marcus knew that kind of trust was fragile. One wrong move, and it would shatter. As the cargo ship slipped back into the endless dark of space, Marcus caught her watching him from the corner of her eye. There was no fear in her gaze this time, only quiet curiosity, and perhaps, just perhaps, the very beginning of hope. The cargo ship glided through the star lanes, engines running quiet. Marcus kept one eye on the radar, the other on the reflection in the cockpit glass. Alira sat in the co-pilot's seat now, small and silent, her knees pulled up to her chest. She was watching the stars pass by as if trying to memorize them. Ever been this far from home before? Marcus asked casually. Her gaze stayed on the window. I don't have home. Marcus didn't push for more. He simply nodded, adjusting the ship's course toward a quiet trade station on the edge of a lawless sector. They needed food, fuel, and information. When they landed, the station smelled of burnt metal and old air. Crowds of aliens moved slowly through narrow corridors lined with flickering neon signs. Alira stayed close to Marcus, her hand brushing the edge of his jacket. As they walked, she had the posture of someone expecting danger in every shadow. At a small supply stall, Marcus paid for rations and coolant packs. He didn't notice the man watching them from across the marketplace until it was too late. The stranger was tall, wrapped in a dark coat, his face hidden by a scanner mask. When Alira glanced in his direction, the man's head tilted slightly. Her body tensed, and her grip on Marcus's jacket tightened. Marcus turned just enough to see the stranger speaking quietly into a wrist gum. His stomach sank. This was no casual observer. They were already found, without a word. Marcus handed the rest of the supplies back to the stall owner and steered Alira toward the nearest exit. She didn't ask questions, just followed, her eyes darting back to the man. By the time they reached the docking bay, Marcus could hear the faint echo of boots on metal behind them. The sound was steady, purposeful. Run, Marcus said softly. They sprinted down the corridor. slipping past startled merchants and ignoring the shouts of angry dock workers. The moment they stepped onto the ship, Marcus hit the hatch controls. The doors slammed shut, and the engines roared to life. As they lifted off, Alira glanced at the rear monitors. 2 black angular ships were undocking in pursuit. Her breath quickened. "They won't stop," she said. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then neither will we," the chase began. Space outside blurred as Marcus pushed the engines to their limits, weaving between transport freighters and asteroid fragments. The hunters followed. Matching his every move, Alira's hands gripped the armrests, her knuckles pale. Marcus noticed, but said nothing. His focus was on finding a gap to slip away. They dove into a dense asteroid belt. Rocks tumbled in every direction, some spinning lazily, others colliding with thunderous cracks. Marcus flew as if he knew each stone personally, twisting the ship through narrow gaps that would have destroyed a less skilled pilot. Behind them, the hunters kept coming. Alira leaned closer to the console, her glowing eyes tracking their path. "You know this place?" she asked. Marcus allowed a small grin. "Used to run cargo through here when I was younger, before the trade laws got strict." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. Even in danger, that tiny moment of connection felt strange and important. The moment was short-lived. The radar beeped. 2 more ships had joined the chase, cutting off the exit path. Marcus's options were running out. Alira turned to him. "If they catch me, they will kill you." Marcus met her gaze briefly. "Then we make sure they don't." He tightened his grip on the controls. The next move he made would either save them or get them both killed. Asterisk. The asteroids closed in around them like a moving wall. Marcus's hands danced over the controls, steering the ship through a narrow gap just wide enough to scrape the paint from the hull. The hunter ships hesitated at the entrance, their scanners unable to map the twisting tunnels ahead. Marcus took the chance, diving deeper into the maze. After several tense minutes, the radar finally showed clear space behind them. The danger was not gone, only delayed. Marcus powered down the main thrusters and let the ship drift into a shadowed pocket inside the asteroid field. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the faint hiss of the life support system. Alira's shoulders loosened, though her eyes still flicked toward the windows, as if expecting an ambush. "You've done this before," she said quietly. Marcus gave a small shrug. "A few times." Her gaze lingered on him, as if trying to understand why someone would risk so much for a stranger. He rose from the pilot's seat and walked toward the small galley. "Hungry?" he asked. She tilted her head, confused, but nodded slowly. Marcus pulled out a pan, a ration pack, and some spices from a metal shelf. The smell of sizzling food soon filled the narrow room. Alira sat at the table, watching every step, her chin resting on her hands. When he set the plate in front of her, she stared at it for a long moment before asking, "Why? Why what?" Marcus said, sitting across from her, "Why give me this?" He frowned. "Because you need it." She shook her head. "Most only give if they want something back." Marcus leaned back, a faint smile on his face. "Family doesn't keep score." The word made her pause. Her fingers traced the edge of the plate slowly. As if testing the idea, she took a small bite, then another. Marcus noticed the way her expression softened, like a tightly shut door opening just a little, but the moment didn't last. A faint ping came from the ship's comm system, an encrypted scan request. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "They found us faster than I thought," he muttered, standing. Alira was on her feet too, the food forgotten. Her voice was steady now. "They will not stop." "Marcus," he nodded grimly. "Then neither will I." He shut off the lights, plunging the ship into darkness. Through the forward window, faint shadows moved between the asteroids. The hunters were here. Alira looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim console. "Light, you could leave me," she said, almost testing him. Marcus didn't even glance at her. Not happening. For the first time since he'd met her. She smiled. It was small, quick, and gone in a heartbeat. But Marcus saw it. And it was enough. The hunters' ships crept through the asteroid shadows like predators. Their faint running lights flickered, sweeping across the rocks as they searched. Marcus kept the cargo ship still, hands resting on the controls. He knew one wrong move would give away their position. Alira stood beside him, her posture tense but steady. Her gaze was fixed on the radar, watching the small blips move closer. "They are not scanning randomly," she whispered. "They know you are hiding me." Marcus didn't deny it. "They'll have to get through me first," he said simply. Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but instead she asked, "Why?" "You owe me nothing." Marcus glanced at her. "Maybe I don't, but you're here now. And that makes you my responsibility." The words seemed to echo in the quiet cockpit. Responsibility, something she wasn't used to hearing without fear attached. The blips on the radar split into two groups, moving to box them in. Marcus's mind worked quickly. They could try to run again, but with the hunters on both sides, it would be suicide. The only other option was to fight, and that meant risking everything. He tapped a series of commands into the console, switching power from the cargo bay to the shield generators. Alira's eyes followed the movement. "You will not survive if they board." Marcus gave a small, humorless smile. "Then they better not get the chance." A silence stretched between them. Finally, Alira spoke, her voice quieter now. "The man who sent them. He called me his creation." Marcus's hands froze for a moment. She looked away. "They changed me, made me into something I never wanted to be, and when I ran, they swore to take me back, no matter the cost." Her fingers tightened into fists. "If they take me, you will die." Marcus leaned back in his seat, his eyes steady on hers. "Then I guess we make sure they don't take you." The simplicity of his tone made something shift in her expression, a flicker of trust breaking through the years of fear. The radar lit up with red alerts. The hunters were closing in fast. Marcus flipped the ship's weapon systems online. He had never been one to start fights. But this was different. This time, he wasn't protecting cargo. He was protecting someone who had no one else. Alira hesitated, then moved to the co-pilot's seat, her hands hovering over the auxiliary controls. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You know how to work these?" She met his gaze. "They taught me to destroy. Maybe it is time I use it for something else." Outside, the first hunter ship broke from the shadows. Weapons glowing, Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. The choice was made. They would stand and fight. The only question now was whether they would survive it. Marcus rolled the cargo ship hard to the left, the blast skimming past their hull. The second hunter moved in from above, trying to pin them between crossfire. Alarms screamed across the cockpit, but Marcus's hand stayed steady. "Shields at 60%, Alira called out, her voice sharp but calm. Marcus fired back. Two quick bursts from the forward cannons, forcing one hunter to break formation. The asteroids around them flashed with light as debris exploded, sending chunks spinning into space. Another laser struck the side of the cargo ship, the impact rattling. "Every panel, shields at 40, Alira warned. Marcus gritted his teeth. "We need an opening." Alira's glowing eyes shifted toward the main display, scanning the asteroid field like a hunter tracking prey. "There," she pointed. A narrow tunnel between two massive rocks, unstable but deep. "If we draw them inside, I can stop them," she added quietly. Marcus didn't have time to ask what she meant. He gunned the engines, diving straight for the gap. The hunters followed, their weapons lighting the tunnel walls. The narrow space forced them into a single file. Chase, exactly what Marcus needed, inside the cockpit. Alira closed her eyes, her breathing steadying. The faint blue glow from her skin brightened, tracing lines like veins of light across her arms. Marcus glanced at her but kept flying. The rocks around them began to tremble, small fragments breaking free and drifting in the airless void. Then, with a sudden pulse of energy, the entire tunnel shifted, asteroid shards and dust swirling into a storm. The lead hunter ship tried to maneuver, but massive chunks of rock slammed into its hull. tearing through metal. The second ship was trapped behind it, engines flaring uselessly as debris crushed its wings. Within seconds, both ships were silent wrecks, drifting in the tunnel's grip. Alira opened her eyes, the glow fading. Her hands trembled, but she forced a steady breath. "It is done," she said softly. Marcus stared at her for a moment, impressed and a little unsettled. "Remind me never to get on your bad side," he said with a half smile. The radar showed the remaining hunter ships pulling back, unwilling to face whatever had just happened. Marcus took the ship out of the tunnel, engines roaring as they cleared the asteroid field. Silence settled again, broken only by the hum of the ship. "You saved us," Marcus said finally. Alira shook her head. "We saved each other." It was the first time she spoke as if they were truly on the same side. And in Marcus's mind, that made all the difference. The stars outside drifted slowly as the cargo ship cruised toward the edge of the sector. Marcus sat in the pilot's seat, the tension in his shoulders finally easing. Alira was in the co-pilot's chair, her legs curled up, eyes half closed, but still alert. It had been hours since the last hunter signal faded from the radar. Marcus glanced at her. "You should rest." She shook her head. "If I close my eyes, I will see them again." He understood. Some battles didn't end. When the shooting stopped, he leaned back, thinking about the fight, the escape, and the strange bond that had formed between them. When they reached a quiet trading moon, Marcus landed the ship and began minor repairs. Alira followed him around the cargo bay, her curiosity breaking through her caution. She asked about the tools, the engines, even the worn patches on his jacket. It wasn't much, but to Marcus, it felt like the first steps toward something normal. Later, as they shared a small meal in the galley, Alira spoke suddenly. "When I was taken, I thought I would never belong anywhere again." Marcus didn't interrupt. "But you did not trade me. You did not fear me. You called me family." Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened faintly. Marcus gave a small smile. "Family's not about blood, Alira. It's about who shows up and stays." For a moment, the hum of the ship felt warmer. She hesitated, then whispered, "Father." The word caught him off guard. He wasn't sure if it was meant as a title or something more, but it settled deep in his chest. He didn't correct her. Days later, they were back in open space. Marcus plotted a course with no fixed destination. Alira sat beside him, her gaze on the stars, but this time, she wasn't looking for a place to run. She was looking forward. They were no longer pilot and passenger. They were something else, something stronger. But peace never lasted forever. The comm system crackled with a faint, distorted signal. A deep voice spoke only 3 words, "We will return." Alira's jaw tightened, and Marcus's hand moved to the controls. Whatever came next, they would face it together.